So you get three of us this morning.
The GM.
A couple of for two of us, it's not a very GM.
I'll take the M at least.
Yeah.
Or maybe G. I'm feeling optimistic today.
Yeah, thanks for coming so early. Especially, I think Tuesday was the party night, at least on my calendar. There's so much going on last night. So if you went out late last night, thanks for showing up early this morning. Let's kick it off with some intros, and then we'll jump right in. My name is Jordan Lyall. I'm from LA. I've been in this space for a long time, building full time in the blockchain space for 4.5 years. I recently left a company I co-founded last year called NFTs-Panel. Right now, I just launched a company called VenturePunk, and we are a Web3 consulting agency, and we help with product and strategy and launching communities. But yeah, early to NFTs. I got CryptoKitties in 2017, and kind of been following the wave here. But that's me, kind of long-term builder, collector, advisor, investor. Happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Rudy, otherwise known as Nom. I'm one of the co-founders of the Monkey DAO, which is the community organization based around the Solana monkey business NFT. Spent the last 10 years in crypto, primarily as a trader. I pretend to be an investor, and I like to organize communities and DAOs and trying to give power back to users and organize proper governance protocols.
Hey guys, this is Varun here, and I'm the founder of Hashflow. It's a decentralized cross-chain protocol. So I've been in the space since 2016. So before the previous bull and bear market cycle. So I've been in the space for quite some time now. So that's my intro, actually.
Let's kick it off. And the title for this panel is A Hitchhiker's Guide to Starting a Cult with NFTs. And Varun, you named it. So tell us why you came up with that name.
Well. So, okay, let me take a step back and just in general talk about like a bit of philosophy on how I think about NFTs or just generally crypto or anything in general, right? So I think one of the reasons why things become interesting is because when it brings cultures and people together, like when people align on a certain common set of values and something that brings them together to align on those things is what creates like communities, right? So that this could apply to political movements, to organized religion, to brands, to marketing, to anything, right? So, and last year, or many people kept asking why some NFTs are more valuable, or how do they create NFTs and things like that. So I think the general thesis is that when people want to own something, it's because they want to belong to something, like they want to belong to a subculture, right? So if you think about like Renaissance paintings, like people don't want to own a painting made in Renaissance period because of the complexity of the artwork, right? Or how amazing the painting it is. Maybe they do, but then really they want to own it because they want to be known as somebody who collects Renaissance paintings. They want to be known as someone who belongs to that cultural revolution that took place in the 16th century. So that's the same principle why anyone wants to own like a Ferrari, right? Because they want to be part of this exclusive club, which becomes a status symbol, right? And that's the same principle you can apply to NFTs, right? They represent this cultural shift that occurred over the last 10 years and gave us this new cypherpunk behavior that was about creating this new financial system that wasn't a thing 10 years ago, right? So, and being part of that is something is really, really valuable, and that's the reason why they wanted to own it. So in a way, it exhibits this behavior of people aligning on common set of values that bring them together, and NFTs are a great way to represent. It's a metaphor that represents that change in the paradigm that occurred over the last 10 to 15 years, right? So, and I think that's, in a way, a cult-like behavior, right? So which is why I named it a Hitchhiker's Guide to creating cults, but not necessarily in a negative way, but also in a way that brings people together, right? So that's the...
I was going to say, you don't have to apologize. I think that's a great title. I think many people here are here because of that title, so thank you. And I think what you said is right. Like, even though this is cutting edge technology, this is, we're all still kind of experimenting and building this thing. There's nothing new under the sun. Humans for forever have been interested in forming tribes and forming groups and around shared ideas, around, memes, before they were called memes, and shiny objects were more valuable than other non-shiny objects. So it's not really anything new. It's just we just happen to be using this new technology to kind of scratch that itch this time around, right?
I mean, cult is the first part of culture. It's very easy to evoke a reaction of people, and I think we titled this because we wanted to get a reaction out of people to say NFTs aren't a cult. It's an easy thing to do, but you're defining inside of a community. You have usually merch, right? So you're all wearing the same thing. You have generally accepted mannerisms or phrases. That's your language or your doctrine or your Bible that you're following along as like you're part of this community. The goblins that we were talking about backstage is like you have a specific way that you're discussing or acting in public. That's a defined way for cult members to act, right? So when you're at a place where you have a small group of people who dress the same way, who talk the same way, who engage in the same activities, that is a cult, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a good way to look at it. When you're a shareholder in a company, you're not necessarily part of a cult. When you buy a certain brand of clothes, you're not necessarily part of a cult. But every single way that you pull all these different things together, when you are trying to build whatever these new communities are, you have to actually look at this as a way to, like, I want to start a very strong cult of personality around the people that we want involved inside of our community.
Okay, so we established the cult. The first part of the title is a guide, a hitchhiker's guide to starting a cult. If someone wanted to start a cult, what would you tell them?
I think look at how religions began. I think generally, I think understanding human psychology is like the key part of it, right? So when you're building communities, you have to first, before you think about what people like, I think the key to building a good community is being yourself, right? So if something you really care about and you're passionate about, and you can build a following around that, because if you continue to pursue that, right, so people will eventually start following that, right, and they'll start to mimic you, right, so which is essentially how memes get propagated, and then once you have done that, right, so then I think it's easy to scale from there. At that point, you're really just doing is putting a framework around how you scale a certain behavior, right, so Bored Apes was a good example, right. It started off as a simple meme on the idea of like the apes, which are aping into something, which is a meme, right? So and then eventually, it turned into a massive, one of the top NFT projects. But really, again, what it did was it appealed to this subculture of crypto that evolved over time, and they did it for fun, right? Like there was no intent of anything else besides just creating something that people could be part of, that they already are part of. They just expressed it in a visual form, right? So and I think that could and generally when I say Hitchhiker's Guide, I generally like to think about it in terms of, at least from my personal hashler perspective, we've always thought about NFTs as a great way to do brand marketing, and it's a great way to build communities around products and bring that loyalty to your brand that otherwise would be really, really challenging to do. Right, so, and I think NFTs are a great way to do that.
So, I would consider myself a serial community builder. I've intentionally or unintentionally have created several communities. The first kind of biggest one that took off was Meme, Don't Buy Meme. So this was in 2020, considered DeFi summer, and just kind of an origin story of a community that took off. I was working at Consensus at the time, building DeFi products, and during the day we would talk about how we need more users in this space. We need to onboard millions of people, the mass market. And then at night, those of us building products in DeFi were degens ourselves, right? And aping, quote unquote, into new protocols and throwing money into untested contracts. So the kind of the dichotomy there was interesting. So I made a joke. I just posted a tweet, and it kind of it poked fun at ourselves, and that kind of went viral. That tweet went viral, and then I said, okay, what do you do in this situation? I want to make sure to capitalize on this momentum here. So I started a Telegram group. All of a sudden we have 40 people in this Telegram group, and then 100, and then 500, and then 2,000 people in just a matter of an hour. It's like, these guys are so passionate about this just silly tweet that I made. How do we capitalize on this? And someone just created a token. Someone created an ERC token. We called it the meme token. And it was just, pardon my French, a shitcoin. And we didn't really know what we were going to do with this. So the meme became, don't buy meme. Don't buy this token. It was telling everybody, don't buy this token. But this was now a phrase that everybody was ironically sharing.
You can say, seize the memes of production.
Seize the memes of production, to borrow another quoted line. So the whole joke and what made this community grow in the early days was telling each other not to buy this thing, even though people were totally aping in. We ended up kind of creating a product around it in 2020 called the meme platform, and this protocol that allowed you to stake this meme token, and you earned NFTs. It was really the first platform to kind of marry NFTs and DeFi. But it was kind of a lesson in like, you almost can't really plan it out. Okay, then I'm going to spread this virally, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and then we're going to grow, and we're going to deploy capital here. It's really when. And you can try to meme different things, and you kind of get, you kind of become skilled in that. But it's always an experiment. But once the community takes off, once the community takes the idea and runs, there's almost no stopping it.
Yeah, I think I usually like to say this. Essentially, memes cannot be invented; they must be discovered, right? So and once that has happened, then you can figure a way to scale that.
Yeah, you've spent the last 30 years of startup culture defining a product market fit and bringing something you think can be an MVP that will attract more users and doing that. And that's not realistically how crypto started. That's not realistically how NFTs started. With like the rare Pepe trading cards is like the first conventional NFT that probably a lot of people were exposed to. Those are all things that just existed as a part of a counterculture that were specifically not designed to appeal to a certain part of an audience, where now rather than saying I have a 6-month roadmap time out for marketing and adoption, a lot of the best communities that are developing are purely organic, and you can't say, oh, I'm going to develop an organic community. You can't just like start out trying to build something like that. It doesn't work. But what you need to be able to do is when you have that, slight grasp of adoption, when you have people who are understanding what you as a creator are trying to do, you need to understand that like your ideal user becomes not necessarily who you were targeting, but who's actually adopting what you're saying. So you need to do a better way of pivoting essentially as a way to bring in your ideal member user, whether that's developers, artists, traders, full gens as much as possible. You need to be able to say, okay, these are the people who are resonating with my message. How do I adapt what I've already made as a better way to bring them in, right? As much as the Telegram group. I don't know how we convince people to get tattoos, but I would love to learn.
Well, I did not tell them to make tattoos. They just did it. So
someone in his community made a tattoo or got a tattoo of their logo.
The logo and the NFTs that we created, they did that. And
they're that passionate.
I was like, okay, I wouldn't do that myself, but that's good. So I think, sorry.
I was going to say, you mentioned MVP, and one thing that I've been thinking about lately, and it's the concept of minimum viable community. I first heard the phrase from Alexis Ohanian on a podcast a few months ago, and I just launched, not to a shill again, but I just launched a community called Skylab. It's a group of builders in this space, Web3 builders, and I've intentionally tried to slow roll this thing out and let it happen organically. And I have a lot of ideas where it can go, but I really want to kind of let it breathe. But then you're on the other side where it's like it's not gonna grow on its own. It's gonna, relationships are gonna develop, but it's not gonna grow unless you kind of create these guardrails or you create this sort of vision, set of goals for the community. So I'm now having to kind of come back into the middle and say, okay, it needs some governance, it needs some leadership, somebody kind of pointing to where we should go. But I think that's an interesting idea of like minimum viable community. You just need a couple people in a Discord or whatever, and with kind of a shared belief of what can be done, what we can do, and I encourage everyone with, if you have an idea for a product, if you have an idea for an NFT, just get a couple people who kind of share that idea, share that vision, put them in a group, and see what happens. Take it slow. Don't rush into creating a DAO. Don't rush into launching a token. Just put smart people together and see what happens.
Yeah, you go a lot into the metrics of where people actually engage, and something like builder or community has really been adopted as buzzwords and not necessarily drilled down into what it is. So 90% of the workload that your community or user base is probably going to come from 5 to 10% of your actual users, the people who either have all day, every day, that they're able to devote their life to your product for whatever reason that they love you or whatever you're trying to represent, or just the fact that if you're targeting someone who is a builder in the sense that they're making a community or making another project, they're probably working on their own shit and not yours, right? So you usually have people who can give you 5 hours a week, maybe, as a way to help out your community. So what's the best way to incentivize them? Not necessarily monetize, but say, okay, thank you for contributing to the thing that I'm building. Thank you for being a part of my community. How do I bring it back so that you are actually getting something, you feel like you're more involved in this? NFTs are difficult because a lot of the value proposition is usually I buy it at a low price and I sell it at a high price. And that's someone who, for better or for worse, even if it's just monetarily contributing to your community by buying that NFT, when they sell, they exit, they leave. So you need to create a product that you're trying to design for people not to sell, but you also want to increase in value to bring new people into the market, which is where we get the analogies to a lot of the Ponzi's, which is the problem that NFT projects have, is rather than just launching a token or launching some sort of revenue sharing for a finance protocol, how do you actually give people material value, whatever that ends up being, which changes dependent on your users' priorities. But you need to make sure that you're saying, okay, I want you to be in this community for the long term. I want you to actually be involved in here. I want you constantly contributing. I need to incentivize that as not just something that you're going to market dump on Uniswap like every single day. I need it to be a way where it's a sustainable value creation mechanism that incentivizes you not to sell, which is a Ponzi and a cult, which is the problems where we're trying to cram 400 years of corporate innovation into 10 years of crypto.
I think generally the way to look at it, like, I think I want to recurse back to the idea of bringing people with common set of values together. Because if you go back to Bitcoin as a fundamental, right? So it's more than just like a value for medium of exchange, right? It's actually a political movement, and the core from the underlying assumption here, again, the hidden premise is it brings people who share a certain common set of values together. Right? So I think the key here is to identify what are those principles, those values you believe in, and do other people align with those things? And the moment you identify those principles and you can actually build and rally people around those values, then creating a token or NFT or anything else is essentially adding fuel to the fire, right? But the key thing is, can you build communities and rally people around some fundamental idea that you can all align on, right? So, and if that can propagate, then using NFTs and everything else is essentially a way to scale that. But if you don't have this fundamental alignment on common set of values, then you can create anything, right? But it wouldn't work. Because many people try to do the inverse, whereby they think they'll start with an NFT first, and then maybe that will create a new subculture, but that is not the way. It's the other way around, where you first need that subculture that has already existed or has been established. And the moment you've established those fundamental principles, the first you need to have the Fight Club, and you need to establish the rules of Fight Club, right? And then you can actually memify the Fight Club and create an NFT out of it.
Yeah, that's where you have a lot of the homogenization of projects where you release something that becomes a success almost overnight, and other teams are able to capitalize on the people who missed out on your subcultural movement, or say, okay, this is something that's already been successful. I can create not necessarily derivative works, but similar works that take a lot of the messages and continue to do that way. You see everyone who copies Bored Apes, then the Azuki flow that happened, and then everyone making the alternative goblins, which I love that project, and I will always reference them.
Everyone thinks Goblins is a joke, and it is, but it's a joke all the way down. If so many people wrote it off, but like if you look at the smart contract, all the way down to like the the code they're using, just their Goblin language with inside the contract, just hilarious. We've got just a couple minutes left. Somehow that was lots of fun. Let's maybe just wrap it up with a quick outro where we can follow up with you guys.
Oh, sure. I mean, my Twitter handle is Gandalf the Brown. So
Gandalf the Brown.
yes,
That's great.
with a 0. So and Hashflow is that's a simple handle actually. It's just Hashflow. That's the Twitter handle.
Hashflow is hiring, right?
Pardon?
Hashflow is hiring.
Yes, we are hiring. We are looking for marketing and engineers. So if any one of you is a protocol engineer or backend engineer, I think send me a message. I think, or just reach out to me here. I'll be around. So.
Yeah, I'm Nom. You can find me on Twitter at @TheOnlyNom. I represent the Monkey DAO and the Solana Monkey Business NFT. Always happy to talk about DAOs and organizations and anything that we want to build. Always looking for more community members. If you want merch or to go to parties or whatever it is for you for an NFT community, or if you're just interested in building new protocols or chewing glass, let me know.
Yeah, again, I'm Jordan Lyall at Jordan Lyall on Twitter. Purple Hat Punk is my PFP. Just started venturepunk.com, and we're looking to partner and invest and consult. Just love building in this space, and love watching this place grow. And we've got 30 seconds left. Any hot takes?
Oh, no hot takes, but I think it's going to be a fun next 3 years of building, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right, thank you all so much.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Cut us off.